RCMP and the exchange that was with the op return, that the RCMP put an op return message yesterday about the seizure of some Bitcoin from an old exchange that's been around for a while. We're going to talk a little bit about the Canadian interest rates and Mark Carney talking about those. We'll talk a bit about the housing market in Canada. I hope to get an update from Dave about what happened with the Mark Carney Danielle Smith meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, and why she was so optimistic about it all despite not getting much of what she asked for. I got an update for you guys about Quebec and what's going on here, and we'll bring it all home with a small discussion about where things are headed next. So let's jump.
Well, I think we missed one of the most important things, which was the Bitcoin on the Hill event. That
oh yeah, that was it. Yeah,
we got to talk about that.
Let's give an update on the Bitcoin on the Hill first about. So just in case people don't know, the three of us here are behind a Bitcoin specific lobby group called the Bitcoin Coalition.
Well, we're not a lobby group.
Pardon me. Yes, I'll fix that. A public policy advocacy group, and because lobbyists have different requirements and obligations. So the three of us focus on Bitcoin. There was a wider meeting this week in Ottawa, but focused on Bitcoin somewhat, apparently. That's what people tell me. And give us an update, Brad. How'd it go? There was a whole bunch of meetings on the Hill. There was a lobby group meeting, another public advocacy group meeting with various cabinet ministers, executive branch members, as well as legislative branch members.
Yeah. So the first time that, I guess in a long time since you brought Andreas Antonopoulos to the Senate to talk about Bitcoin to the government, quite a few MPs and a senator got engaged and came out. We, as a Bitcoin Coalition of Canada, have just been kind of trying to sort of part-time organize Bitcoiners and put together meetup resources and policy suggestions and just talking to businesses and Bitcoiners. But we haven't really been that effective at being able to reach politicians. And, for anybody watching that's curious, this kind of came from the trucker convoy when the government started freezing bank accounts, and a lot of us in Bitcoin, we kind of disconnected from politics, right? Because Bitcoin is our politics. And most of us have been kind of disillusioned by politics and kind of just chose to go down the individual liberty path and take sovereignty into our own hands, right? But when you live in a country that does not respect property rights, you kind of have to have one or two options. You either have to get activated, make your voice heard, and try to affect some change, or you have to leave. And some of us have left. Some of us are in the process of trying to leave. Some of us are trying to make change. And, Dave's staying, but as Alberta. There's other groups out there. There's like Web3 Coalition and things like that, where the crypto folks have a lot of sway and they get lots of money from their, shitcoin scams and their, VC funded casino games and stuff. And they're trying to be out there lobbying the government not to regulate their illegal securities as securities, and not to, treat NFTs the same as Bitcoin and all this stuff. And it was actually a Liberal MP, Joel Lightbound, that was one of the louder voices in the Liberal Party for the benefits of Bitcoin during this whole trucker convoy and post-trucker convoy time. It was Joel Lightbound, who's now a minister and has had to be silenced on Bitcoin, unfortunately, but in Carney's cabinet, he's a minister. And so Joel Lightbound was loud. He came out to the Bitcoin conference. He was very supportive. He talked positively about the benefits of Bitcoin and Satoshi and the importance of Bitcoin for the individual. And even in the House of Commons, he stood up and gave a speech about why all of the Liberal MPs should pay attention to Bitcoin, not the Bitcoin price, but more Bitcoin, what it is and how it helps people, how it helps Canadians. So that was really hopeful. And obviously Pierre Poilievre came and to Tahini's and did a Lightning Network transaction and was going on Robert Breedlove's podcast and all that stuff during that time. So it was really exciting for us. So a bunch of us got active, and we decided, okay, well, let's try this out, right? Let's see if we can talk to politicians and help Pierre. If Pierre really wants to grab the Bitcoin flag, we can maybe do some educating of the conservative MPs and, try to do it in a nonpartisan way. So we'll also educate NDPs and liberals if they want to hear about it. But it quickly turned partisan, and, Trudeau and the liberals started attacking Bitcoin every chance they could get and beating Pierre over the head with every crypto scam they could hear about. FTX, we blamed it on Bitcoin and all this stuff. So we a lot of us kind of got disillusioned because Pierre stopped talking about Bitcoin during this period, because it was kind of like the party strategic thing, right? And we've talked about this in previous episodes. And in the background, there's another group called the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, which Dave actually had a hand in. The genesis of that back when it was the Alberta Blockchain Consortium. And that group's been going for a while, and they've kind of, what I've found from meeting with like the Canadian Canadian Blockchain Consortium and the Bitcoin miners that support that group, it's like supported by cryptocurrency exchanges like Coinbase and Bitcoin miners, and then I don't know who else, but it's not a lot of Bitcoin companies, mostly Bitcoin miners, because the Bitcoin miners are a real economic impact in Alberta, and they could be in BC and other areas, Ontario and Quebec and stuff. In Newfoundland, Dave's been out to the Newfoundland mining sites before, helping out there. So there's lots of opportunity, but with the left government that we have in Canada being, prejudice against energy uses, then they start banning Bitcoin mining. Like, we're going to put a moratorium on using renewable energy for Bitcoin mining, and it just became this hot button topic. And even the Bitcoin miners did not want to have the word Bitcoin in their name, because it got so bad that the government was like unfairly double taxing Bitcoin miners if it was like a Bitcoin mine. But if it was a data center, it was completely okay. And, there was like GST withholding and all this stuff that they were doing if it was Bitcoin mining. But if it was data centers, then it wasn't. So the Bitcoin miners were even like, well, we don't want to have the word Bitcoin be used when we're talking to the Canadian government. And so there was this kind of, for years, this thing about like, they didn't want to use the word Bitcoin, so they kept it as the Blockchain Consortium. And so myself and Jeff Booth and a couple others were kind of engaging with Kalea, who runs that group. And we're like, hey, look, like, you got to change it to Bitcoin. You should change it to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the only thing that matters here. You guys don't promote illegal securities or anything like that anyway. So you gotta like look at the benefits of doing a Bitcoin focus. And so this event that Kalea organized was the first test of that for that group. And, I partially funded the event on the Hill, and it was another Bitcoiner. We stepped up and put our sats on the line to put a good foot forward for these MPs and ministers and staffers and stuff, to have them, be educated by Bitcoiners. And we tried to keep it super focused on positive benefits of Bitcoin. And, like, Kalea was nervous that if we had come in there with like, screw the banks energy and all this like Bitcoin maxi energy, that we would like not get a second shot at being able to go and talk to the MPs again, and they would disengage from us, because like Pierre, who was positive of Bitcoin, kind of led by fear a little bit in the last election and stopped talking about Bitcoin. So the politicians, they need something that they can really like sell to their constituents and to the public, and jobs helps. And so we did that. We obeyed those requests, and we kind of like we played nice. Nolan actually dropped out because he didn't think he could play nice. so I was fine with that. I was like, let's.
Yeah, I had to give you guys the Charlie Kirk thing made me not capable, at least for this week, to be able to.
Yeah,
like,
just for this one. Yeah.
I want to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point, like I'm like looking for people to cancel and piss me off right now. So I just was not the right guy to bring this week.
She appreciated that you recognized that and stepped down, and for whatever. Like I was willing to sort of take her leadership on that and see if that worked. If we did engage with them peacefully and nice, and didn't rattle the cage too much, to see if they would have a good experience and re-engage with us. So I kind of, man, I had to bite my tongue. Like I
That's
have
what I
so
mean.
many.
I was not going to be able to this week. This week
It
in
was
particular, it's not possible. Like,
I like that everybody just assumed that I wouldn't be able to play nice.
yeah,
you weren't even asked.
we didn't even invite Dave. We didn't even invite Dave to it. We were like, Dave, we know Dave's not gonna bring the
That's the
guillotine
thing.
out.
I was invited, and every preparatory meeting was like, "Now let's talk about." And I kind of felt like it was me, and maybe not, but I knew it was
Probably.
the right choice. I think it's the right choice. If they're going to meet you, it's the right choice. But I just knew myself this week it was not gonna fly.
I'll tell you what, like I'm wearing my Bitcoin suit today for the episode because this is,
you're looking great. You're looking great.
Kind of I was decked up in a suit, but I'm trying not to be disparaging or anything like that. And it was Chatham House rules, so I can't say who said what and all this stuff. But to be general about it, I'd say it was, yeah. I mean, it was a success. I could say that it was a success in that we had the most amount of MPs come to a Bitcoin focused roundtable. And, one of the MPs high up in the party didn't hold any Bitcoin, but he has MicroStrategy shares and watches Michael Saylor videos. And, another MP from, I think it was, I can't remember
one shotted for that MP though. You can become a maximalist pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And another MP was like more financially focused and didn't have any Bitcoin. And he was kind of talking about central bank policy, but unfortunately there was like topics for the roundtables. And like, if we, once we started deviating from the topic because certain people that were there trying to make a case for their industry or whatever, they wanted to have a chance to speak. And so if the MP was not really super interested in, in this case, it was like data sovereignty, right? This was the topic of the roundtable with this MP, but the MP was really interested in like the debt bubble and like how the US dollar dominance is going to be shaped in the world and what it means for Bitcoin and stuff. But the topic just kept getting switched back to like blockchains can secure data sovereignty and all this stuff. And it was like, I got so frustrated. I was just like, they probably could tell I was pissed off because I was just like, my tone of voice changed, my whole cadence changed. And I was just, I can't like not be pissed off that these cryptocurrency exchange shills are hijacking the conversation from this MP who like, he reads all of Lynn Alden's work. He doesn't have any Bitcoin. He's not a Bitcoin guy, but he read all of Lynn Alden's articles because it wasn't until after the meeting when I got to him one-on-one that I could say like, hey, you kind of have a lot of interest in this space. Like, where do you get your information? I wanted to just see what it was. And he was like, oh, Lynn Alden, actually. I was like, that's amazing. So like Lynn Alden, Michael Saylor, they're out there orange pilling Ottawa already for us. So thankfully, like Bitcoin is just winning on its own. And even though it's very frustrating that we get, there's a seat at the table for the other side, like the crypto blockchain people, because they do put the money up and they redirect the conversation. They throw in all kinds of like irrelevant half truths and try to.
It's the same in the United States. It's the same in the United States.
Yeah.
I see the lobbying in the United States pretty closely. And, indeed, as you've noticed, the stablecoin bros flooded the zone
at every chance.
I like stablecoins. Trust me, I don't have a problem with stablecoins. But
I don't have a problem with stablecoins. They're using stablecoins as a Trojan horse for shitcoins because they're trying to give the benefits of blockchains for stablecoins, and then really what they're doing is trying to get favorable laws passed so that they can either like create stablecoins from minimally reserved situations, do lending, make fees and stuff like that, and then sell their shitcoins.
But did you see this week the announcement by USDC and Coinbase entering the checking account interest game in Canada? So they're offering 5%. Yeah, they're going to be offering 5%, 4.5% if you're a Prime member of.
They were trying to do that. See, there's some problems with Finance Canada. We had a meeting with Finance Canada as well, and we went there to talk about Bill C2 and the $10,000 cash, proposed rule where it's illegal now to accept $10,000 in cash, and some of the other privacy eroding things in that bill. But Finance Canada was like, obviously the crypto exchanges and Coinbase were there to lobby for their, stablecoin stuff. But there's some stuff in the way of them actually doing that in Canada. So they want to do it. They're announcing that they're going to do it, but they can't actually effectively do it here with the way that the rules and the regulations are, because they have to have a 1-to-1 reserve of actual dollars to one stable coin. So like if they're going to have $1 million of stable coins in their possession or whatever to offer these financial services, they have to have like an additional $1 million.
T-bills won't work, or Canadian
or T-bills. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
then it could still
But
work.
and also it's like they're using some DeFi protocol for the lending, so that they're not in custody of the money, and they're having a hard time, getting the regulators to understand and accept that to let them do that. But it's so ridiculous because, I borrowed against my Bitcoin to finance the closing of my house, and I didn't need to go through any regulators or anything like that. I just used Bitcoin technology. So you don't like. Coinbase is out there trying to make the case that it's like, oh, innovation is stifled in Canada. We can't do this. We can't do that. And I'm like, I did it. Like I'm example of like Bitcoin technology allows me to take a multi-sig loan against my Bitcoin and use a stable coin to pay my mortgage or to close the house. So like,
hold on, pawn shop law connected with Bitcoin allows you to do what you did, because it's still relying on the collateralized loan structure, which is just having a place to record the lien on the Bitcoin.
All I mean is that like I went to a company that does it. It doesn't like what they're trying to say is that we can't do this. Like innovation is being stifled in Canada. So you have to change all these securities rules to let us be innovative and give loans. And then I'm like, I did it literally. Like I just went to a company that does it with Bitcoin and I did it. Like there's no rules against it, but they're trying to just like Trojan horse all this stuff in so that they can get everything. They basically like open up the casino.
They want, well, really, as we all say, and I think Dave knows this well, where does the yield come from? I think I've seen Dave throw that around on the internet a few times, but because that's the issue. If you do the way you did it, we know where the yield comes from. It comes from the risk absorbed by the lender.
I'm just paying an interest rate. I just pay the lender an interest rate, and then there's a collateralization. It's just like a private mortgage, basically. It's just using Bitcoin. So it can be done. It is being done. They want to have the same rights as a bank, though. Like they want to be able to do like the same things a bank can do, like make money from nothing, like all that stuff. So good luck convincing the banks and Wall Street to let that happen. But anyways, the point of this whole thing was, I guess, I came back from this with a little bit like hopeful that both parties are interested in engaging. And it's so interesting that somebody that's like high up in the Liberal Party that met with us was a CEO of a Bitcoin mining company in the past that worked on the Texas ERCOT project. So I was like so shocked. I was like, seriously, wow. So there's on both sides, there's a lot of knowledge and interest. And the MP that met with us, the Liberal MP, had Bitcoin. He owned Bitcoin. So I was like, this is pretty interesting.
Imagine going from being a Bitcoiner to being a politician, though. Like, do you get a head injury or something?
Oh man,
an ASIC fell on his head and his IQ dropped 60 points. Now he had to go become a politician.
I think it was the bear market, man. I think it was like in the depths of the bear market before new all-time highs. He kind of capitulated and was like, okay, I'm going into politics. And then like the Bitcoin price ripped and his former company stock took off, and he's probably kicking himself for shifting away from Bitcoin right at the wrong point.
Well, I like the intel on Joel Lightbound as well, because it looks like there's a huge exodus from Mark Carney's cabinet. I think we're at 4 or 5 retirements already. We've got Freeland, the one who sicked the banks and had a good giggle about it on us during the truckers. She's gone. couple others are going to be gone. Ralph Goodale, I think, was one of the bigger names. Champagne, the finance minister, is going to retire apparently. So this could be big for Joel. I mean, Joel might even get a portfolio upgrade because of this, because it looks like 5 senior spots in cabinet are gone as of October something, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for folks like Joel who are freshly minted cabinet ministers to get a little upgrade.
Yeah, but like we still have a lot of work to do because it's still like a little bit taboo. And I even asked some of the liberal guys, like, hey, like, clearly you get Bitcoin, there's benefits to it. You even worked on the ERCOT stuff. You get the social good of Bitcoin mining even. So how do we like rehabilitate this so that it's not a partisan thing and that we can just put the positive messages out there with the politicians so that they stop their crusade against Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. And he was like, well, honestly, it's the stable coins. Like if you get us all excited about stable coins, then, it'll be less of a hot button issue to talk about Bitcoin. And I was like, but stable coins have nothing to do with Bitcoin, man.
But I'm also not sure about that. I mean, just look at how political, I mean, this is not typical of Canada, but here's the first, little article I have for the day. It's Carney laughing about let me just move this from your face because it's blocking you. So it's Carney and Poliver fighting in the chamber yesterday.
I saw that video.
Yeah, about interest rates, about Carney here saying that the U.S. Canada is in a better fiscal situation than the United States. But here's where the thing starts turning into weaponized interest rates and
it's currency war
and currency wars, right? So I don't know if stable coins are going to be the way, because I can't imagine there's a Trojan horse, because America can conduct a type of economic warfare on Canada using the stable coins here, and I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, Dave, you've discussed this a number of times, that the vulnerability of Canada right now is that the U.S. administration isn't like it was during the truckers with a Joe Biden and a Federal Reserve that's going to just backstop whatever happens in Canada. So now you can actually have a currency war, and I don't know who shows up for Canada. So this makes it more political as far as I can tell. I mean,
well, they're definitely interested in AI and stable coins, and now even Bitcoin mining in some ways, which was very positive thing that came out of this.
It's because they're building their reserve. They just took the 50.
Oh yeah, RCMP stole the 60 million.
The thing that I don't get is what is supposed to be the broad use case for Canadian dollar stablecoin.
Yeah, that's the thing that nobody could really answer. And like we don't even have Cash App here, and we don't even have Venmo, but yet like these blockchain bros are trying to like convince Canadians to use Canadian dollar stablecoin. Like nobody's trained to even use.
No.
We still use email money transfer, for God's sake here. So it's like the whole system's a monopoly, and it's backwards, and it's protectionist, and it's like a cartel, the banking system here. So even if they get the Canadian dollar stablecoin stuff passed through, who's going to use it? It's like
it's only going to help people
NFTs.
Avoid taxes for gray market work anyway. I can't see. I mean, that's the use cases of stablecoins, as far as I can tell, so far have been exchanges consolidating at the end of the day between each other. That was the original use case, right? It was they didn't have access to dollars, so they created their fictional collateralized stable coins in order to settle between each other. And then it moved into a lot of the people endemic to our industry who are simply there trying to earn stable coins. So it's sort of hard to tax. You can put it in any wallet. No one knows you got paid. You can't really surveil.
Put us back up here, Nolan. I can't see your beautiful eyes. There we go.
Yeah, I think the use case for the U.S. stablecoins makes a lot more sense because there's a demand for digital U.S. dollars all over the world. But there's no one in the world outside of Canada who's like, you know what I need is access to Canadian dollars. Like, that's a great idea.
I know it's so dumb. It whatever. But the point like that I took back was I got so frustrated actually at the second day. I left halfway through and I was just like, I can't sit here anymore and listen to these crypto exchange shills redirect the conversation away from the meaningful things that actually matter in the conversation. Like we had the opportunity specifically with the Liberal MP that was there to talk about how there's a direct correlation between Bitcoin mining and their AI data sovereignty thing that they really want, because Bitcoin miners bootstrap like the grid and help build up the infrastructure for being able to put AI data centers, spin them up, and they help subsidize the build out and all that stuff. And there's actually some guys there from like a couple of Bitcoin mining companies that actually do that. They use Bitcoin mining as a way to bootstrap AI data center stuff, and then they keep Bitcoin mining going, and they expand with Bitcoin mining, and then they are able to build up without subsidies from the government, without lending from the government, without the government money. They're able to do it all. And so that was the big thing. It was like the Bitcoin miners and the Bitcoiners were there. We were trying to like just educate and just tell them about what we're doing and how they should just stop, making it hard for us to spend money and do productive activities in the country. But the crypto guys were all like trying to get laws in their favor and trying to get these special accesses and try to get them to change their focuses and mandates and stuff. So it was kind of just super frustrating in the end that like we had a really good opportunity to hammer it down on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was supposed to be the main focus of it. Like that's what we all had the intent to go there and do. And then it was just hijacked half the time or more by, Coinbase and the crypto guys, but trying hard to just keep it around blockchain, crypto, Web3 banking, all this crap. And, there was some really good Bitcoiners there that were able to kind of adeptly kind of like maneuver that back to Bitcoin all the time. And Kalea even kept trying to bring it back, to her credit, to Bitcoin mining where it was relevant. But, it's just, at this point, coming back from it, I'm like, we just need to spend more time ourselves, I think, focusing on Bitcoin only, on this lobbying sort of stuff. Even though we're not lobbyists, we're not doing lobbying, we're just educating them. Mm-hmm. I'd say like when it comes to Bitcoin mining, Kalea's doing really good work, especially in Alberta, and she has some really great connections that she brings in. She's like giving them seats at the table, and they're really having a good effect on the MPs. But to have any kind of tolerance towards shitcoin money is unacceptable,
because again, what I find
when you're trying to do Bitcoin education, it's just you cannot have the shitcoiners in the room.
Tell me if this makes sense. My interpretation of what you're saying sounds a bit like this, where crypto people aren't telling Canada the truth, and Canada doesn't know the truth. Like it's kept from them. Canada doesn't know how far behind they've fallen. Like you said, with the email money transfers, they don't know that nobody. Like if you tell someone in the United States, send me an email transfer, they're not going to know what to do. They're gonna be freaked out. What are you talking about, right? So the idea, whereas like it's much more pedestrian even in America to say, oh, send me some Bitcoin, send me stable coin or whatever. This idea, and this is kind of where my own worry about self-censorship came in here, is like, you can't tell them the truth about Bitcoin without telling them the truth about Canada. That you gotta kind of say the truth. You're falling behind, and you got to be aware of that.
I think they are aware. That was one thing that kept coming up. Like the MPs themselves would preempt the conversation with, we've heard this from a lot of people in multiple industries. We get it. We're way behind in this area and this area. So they understand that Canada,
that's what the crypto people aren't telling them, though. That's what I mean. Like when you say you're going off course, it's because the crypto people are telling them, like, this is how we share the spoils of having already won. Versus Bitcoin, which is more telling you.
Well, the thing that bugged me the most about what the crypto people were doing, it wasn't like, oh, they're not doom and glooming enough and like hammering the point home how bad things are, because I agree kind of with Kalea in that way, that I think it's more positive, and this is Michael Saylor's framework that I have kind of adopted, is to be cheerful and constructive. and lead with the positives and the benefits and get them excited and get them on board, because this is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to help your constituents. This is how it helps me. This is how it's going to help your, get reelected, rather than like, things are so bad, you're going to have to buy Bitcoin because you're going to be eating cat food under the bridge soon if you don't. Like, I kind of agree with her in that way. But like, the thing that bothered me so much about the crypto guys is they kept doing like this stupid political thing where they're like, we're a serious organization. We're not doing like Trump coin and Melania coin like they're down in the States. Like Donald Trump's making a joke out of this industry with the meme coins. We're serious. We're trying to provide value. And I'm thinking in my head, like, how many scam coins has Coinbase promoted and emailed people? Hey, you should buy Scholar coin. Coinbase Ventures was like the only VC that invested in this coin. It has $1 million market cap before they list it, and then it pumps to $50 million, and all the VCs at Coinbase make all the money. Like, how many times have they listed something like Luna or Terra or all these Ponzi schemes or just total worthless shit meme coins, and they're trying to like say, I agree, like, Trump coin is stupid, but that's not the problem. The problem is that they're trying to like whitewash all the crypto Ponzi nonsense that they invested in and supported in 2022, 2023, FTX, Three Arrows Capital, all this DeFi nonsense, all the yield schemes that they create. And they're just trying to like wash all that away and just say, oh, Trump coin is what, causes people to lose money. And I'm like, this is a Bitcoin meeting. Like, we shouldn't be talking about any of this crypto stuff, no blockchain, nothing. So I think it's just like, I would like to double down on our efforts to find some people, and I had some great connections of folks that are like on the ground in Ottawa that are politically connected, that can start doing just as, like showing up and doing events and stuff, having a presence there for Bitcoin on the Hill, and, even potentially, putting some more money towards getting some more organization for like having Bitcoiners just kind of like who want to volunteer and have their voices be heard, build up some resources there where we can actually direct folks who maybe people are listening to this and they're just like, oh, I want to volunteer. I want to help. I want to go to these meetings. I'd talk to my MP. Like, we got to have a resource for that. And I think after this meeting, I kind of got more energized to want to get back into that game, because before I was like, I think I just might want to close it all down and just not deal with it anymore, because
you walked yourself into fatigue with all the door knocking, and then the running away
I knocked on too many doors.
The fugitive life in Cape Breton tired you down.
Think about this, Brad. What if instead of that political door knocking, you had been going door to door proselytizing the good word of Bitcoin? You would have made a much more positive impact in the world than hanging out with all those politicians.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some like delayed proof of work in there that they'll see that, like, okay, this guy actually did put in some work even though we lost and whatever. Like, and this is what I was telling them too, because I spoke with some of the higher ups at the party, and I was like, they were like, what can we do for you guys, right, in the meeting? And I'm like, look, you guys should just realize what we can do for you. Bitcoiners are activists. We are freedom-minded individuals that care about property rights, individual liberty, sound money. Any of these things ring a bell? Which party more relates with sound money, individual liberties, libertarianism, Austrian economics, all these things, privacy? I mean, they have the ball in their hands that there's like millions of Bitcoiners in Canada that if they carried the Bitcoin flag and they defended this for us, like, we're single issue voters. We care about who's going to protect privacy and Bitcoin and sound, put in sound money habits in Canada, but mostly just Bitcoin. So it's not like, what can they do for us? It's like, if they are true and they understand Bitcoin and they study Bitcoin, then talk about Bitcoin, then that will give us so much firepower to be able to motivate the base of Bitcoiners, to be able to show up and and support whichever party it is that most espouses these values. So, I mean, I feel like they kind of got the message a little bit, because, you know, another guy was like, look, I'm a Bitcoiner. I have Bitcoin. I know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. I want you guys to win. I don't want to see shit coins and meme coins. It's not what's long-term value. Like Bitcoin's what's long-term value. I get it. And, you know, and Pierre seemed to have that same message. It was like the use cases of Bitcoin, like what, and you know, they were trying to redirect it to blockchain and stable coins. And he was just like, I want to know about Bitcoin. Like, let's talk more about Bitcoin. So it was good to kind of, definitely some positives came out of this, and some you know, maybe it might be a waste of time to engage with the politicians, but I don't know. Somebody should do it. Like, it should be done, I think.
Yeah, and it's, look, I mean, the bottom-up nature of Bitcoin and the bottom-up nature of engaging with these politicians is how we do everything. We can't expect on the other side for them to come down and just voluntarily help us. Everything's been bottom-up, and having access to these people is really important in order to spread our message in that direction. I mean, I think about what's going on in Alberta, for example, and, you know, Danielle Smith continuing to host these across the province meetings and continuing to offer this forum. And I think playing a kind of good cop, bad cop, where she comes in and she'll say, oh, I'm here to, you know, fix Canada, but then she's really just offering a platform for people to hate on Canada and for people to talk about what's important for Alberta. But I am wondering about this, like, what was with that meeting with her and Carney, and where she came out and said, things are going, I'm positive, looks great. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she's kind of trying to thread the needle right now between, you know, trying to be this like consensus builder and openly calling for separation, which, you know, I think most of the Conservative Party and most of the Conservative Party's base at this point are in favor of Alberta independence. And so I think, you know, she's trying to play nice. And my take is that maybe she's got this idea that if she plays nice for long enough and is demonstrably nice, then when inevitably Carney deals in bad faith, it'll be an angle for her to come back in the other direction and be like, see, we tried. Like, we went into these people with good faith. We tried to negotiate, and it turns out they were psychopathic Marxists who didn't believe in the future of Canada, let alone the future of Alberta. And so we were not able to reach a deal, and therefore we need to leave.
I mean, it sounds correct, because that's what we're starting to see, the bad faith thing. It's coming in Quebec even, right? There's the famous notwithstanding clause aspect of the Constitution. For those of you who don't know, the notwithstanding clause is there's a part of the Canadian Constitution where you can go, just kidding, doesn't apply, right? And
can you explain that a little bit more? Because I also don't understand the notwithstanding clause stuff.
Easy, yeah. So it's Section 33. There's a test to apply it, right? So you can't just apply it willy-nilly. But basically, there's a bunch of, the whole Canadian Constitution works not so dissimilarly to the U.S. Constitution, except for the Charter. The Charter is a judicial framework. We empowered the judiciary in our system greatly using the Charter. And there's a bunch of sections of the Charter. So Section 1 is you can't abridge Canadians' rights to moving around and this and that, unless there's some national security aspect to it, like a clear and present danger. So we developed something called the Section 1 test. There's a few of these things. So it's basically ways that, you know, yelling in the theater, fire, and then you can leave, you know, that kind of stuff. All these little tests, Oakes test, and all these different tests. When you get down, if you really want to do something unconstitutional, right? If you really want to abridge rights and that you can't pass any of the other tests. So, for example, the classic case has always been Bill 101 in Quebec, which is the French language education law. So that's what's prevented and made it illegal for Francophone-born parents to send their kids to an English public school. So that is not allowed in Quebec, right? So if your parents are English, or sorry, if your parents are Chinese and you came here from China, you actually don't get to choose. You only get to go to English school in Quebec if your parents were raised in English in Canada. Other than that, you're toast. You got to go to French school or go private, and then you're allowed. So there's no way this could have ever been constitutional. So Bill 101, and that's the thing with the measuring of English too on the signs, right? So it created a whole language police, a language Gestapo. None of it was ever constitutional. And so they just used the notwithstanding clause to pass all these rules. So
the notwithstanding clause, is that like a
literally notwithstanding your constitutional rights, fuck you. Like,
so it's just like a superseding.
Yeah.
It's a get out of jail.
Yeah,
it's a get out of jail free card for the governments.
Yeah.
And
now,
they can just use it on anything.
Yes,
It's
but
like
you almost have to invert your understanding in the end, because it was given to the provinces who didn't ever want to be under the thumb of a federal judiciary, because it empowered the judiciary so much and it empowered the legal scholars so much that no Canadian province would have signed it if they would have known they didn't have this notwithstanding fuck you clause, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't. It was.
Oh, is that when, like, why there was a little bit of a kerfuffle there in like 23 when the teachers were on strike and Doug Ford was going to use the notwithstanding clause to force them back to school? Yeah.
It allows you to override it. So everyone had worries about how it would be used when it was first started. It really was a Quebec-inspired thing to preserve Quebec's desire to tell Canada fuck off whenever it felt like it. And so that's what created this whole world of notwithstanding clause. But when Mark Carney came in recently, so they're going to dress it up in constitutional rights, right? And so just this week, it's one of their first orders of business to, in the same way he talked about creating one economy for Canada, he's talked now about getting rid of the notwithstanding clause, because it's still an issue in Quebec. For example, now if you're an English person, you can't go to a Quebec hospital and guarantee you can be treated.
He wants to get rid of the notwithstanding clause?
He wants to reduce it even more. Yeah, not to increase your rights. Not for that.
Why would the provinces agree to that?
They're not going to. So Danielle Smith came out today and said, get real. Like, this is if you're serious about creating a better economy or whatever, you're going into a place where we're not even going to be having left-right conversations. We're not going to be talking about building the economy. We're going to be talking about state sovereignty again. And so while conceptually the idea of the notwithstanding clause is ridiculous and should never have been there, if you're going to have a real sort of limousine of human rights in this country, which is what Pierre Trudeau promised us. He said it's going to be the limousine of civil rights in the world, right? And then they put this, like, just kidding, little clause in it. And so Quebec uses it. We're the only one who uses it in Quebec. We love to use it. We use it for any time they want to abridge the rights of English Canadians. So we said this is how English Canadians have felt abandoned for years, because we said a long time ago, hey, this notwithstanding clause is going to turn us all into victims of Quebec. Canada, can you help us? They never did. And so that's kind of where I've wanted to have a city-state in Montreal and to separate from the whole lot of you since the 1990s, because it all seemed like a scam to me. Like, Quebec, Canada, I'm fine with my island here, and I think we can make it. And so, but now that it's come all the way around, they're trying to get rid of it, not for the reasons that I said earlier, like, help out minority populations and stuff like that. It's now just to take away state sovereignty, because states do use it to push back against the willy-nilly nature of a super empowered federal level judge bureaucracy fake, level of power. So Alberta I don't think they've ever used the notwithstanding in Alberta, but now that other provinces have used it, it's just another tool in our arsenal to push back against the federal government. So Danielle Smith is saying, no, we want the notwithstanding. So is that an issue at all in Alberta right now, or is it just a Quebec thing? Quebec is losing it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been hearing a whole lot about it. It's obviously a non-starter. Like, there's zero chance that Alberta is going to be ceding any further rights to the federal government. The realistic scenario now is that, and I do think the most likely scenario is that we will end up with a successful independence vote. But if we're going to end up staying in the country, and there is a chance of that still, it's going to be with major concessions. That's the only way that that it really makes any economic or rational sense for us to continue to be here. If like there's just no reason for us to continue to pay for the whole rest of the country. It makes absolutely no sense, and we're not going to continue to do it. So, if anything, it just shows you how far apart this delusional liberal government is from the people who are, on the ground and trying to live our lives.
This is the current polling in Quebec, just to give you all an update. The PQ, all the blue you see means they're out of Canada, and they're promising a referendum pretty much right away, notwithstanding clause. They have a whole list of grievances now. The current party in power is this CAQ, otherwise known as the CAQ, a very terrible name for English translations. But they're not looking like they're going to get much. They're way down in overall seats. I think the projections is 0 seats for the current party in power.
Wow.
Well, the current party in power was supposed to be a populist.
CAQ is flaccid.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a popular right-leaning party. That's what Quebec asked for. That's what they were created as. But they ended up being so COVID Nazi that they lost their entire base of populist people. A little bit like what happened with Doug Ford in Ontario, in the sense that he also was supposed to be a kind of left-wing or right-wing populist guy, and turned out he loved lockdown stuff and he loved vax mandates. So right now, the only reason why the Parti Québécois, the purple with the PQ here, is so far ahead, 82 seats, is because they have one platform. They just want to separate. That's it. They're not hesitating. There's no other policy being offered. Nothing. Just a referendum and go.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what's happening in Quebec. The Liberals had been in power for so long that people still hate them, and they're not going to get outside. All you see them getting here are the West Island of Montreal that you can see down there. And these are the dumbest people in Canada. They're dumber than Maritimers. They're really, really like rock bottom stupid people. So they're the most CBC you're going to find. They're the most out of touch English people in all of Canada. And so they're not going to change, but it's not really going to, they're not going to have a big dramatic effect on Quebec. It's really, I think, I can't see anything other than the Conservative Party of Quebec somehow getting a surprise bit of enthusiasm. I just can't see any other scenario in Quebec. These are the only ones I see.
Well, I support that movement.
So yeah, here's the good news. Even if Alberta doesn't go very soon, I think you're going to see a separatist government in Quebec again.
That's good.
No hesitation towards referendum. They're furious about the notwithstanding clause thing because it's why I've always said English people would have a better gig in Quebec without the federal government, because this is not against me. I don't take abridging English rights in Quebec as a targeted thing because they hate me. It's a way to test Canadian weakness and see if they'll do anything about it, and then they get to take the spoils of that fight and make political fodder off it. I think in a bilateral relationship with Quebec, just the minority English and the Quebec government will get everything we want. But because it goes through Canada and they hate the federal government, I have to negotiate through the federal government just to be able to talk English with my nurse. You know what I mean? I don't care personally.
Wow, that's nuts.
But yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, it's nuts.
Nolan, change subjects just a little bit before we wrap it up. How was that conference? The Treasuries thing. Or did you go to that?
I did not go to New York. No. I was in contact with them. We broadcasted on Roxham TV, and I didn't go for a number of reasons. The unconference format, I had nothing to really, I would have been there as a tourist kind of thing. I know all the players and I cover all this stuff, but unless someone asked me and there was no ordered schedule or something, so I didn't have a.
Seems like I don't go on Twitter extremely a lot these days, but I saw a bunch about that. Michael Saylor was like all over Twitter.
Yeah, I got to say the production quality was top level. It looks like they're right back into the middle of the New York City because I helped invent the New York City event business model for Wall Street. No one had ever done a Wall Street Bitcoin conference like I did in 2017. We were the first to not
I
talk
went to
about.
that one.
It was a great one, yeah, and it was the day it hit $10,000, and it was a big deal, right?
Exciting times.
And I remember calling up people on Wall Street, and they were like, "I don't know anything about computers," and I was like, "Great." We don't want
I remember
those.
that was the time when it was like the Wall Street traders would be like after work trading Bitcoin and trying to get Bitcoin. Like that was kind of like the thing. It was like the Wall Street traders are front running Wall Street. It was like that was the thing at that time.
Yeah. So
But
but what I saw,
guys-
because I spoke with Kotzman and I spoke with Ed Julian, who I used to work with, the two people that put it on. And I told them, like, you guys are now at the forefront of events. This is really the highest quality, highest financial literacy event I've seen in Bitcoin. So just this idea that this many financially literate people who understand all the ins and outs, the speculative attack, the mechanics of the speculative attack, where Metaplanet's going, the Japanese arbitrage with the US rates and all that stuff. This was really people, I think, with a clear view of how to get out of this quagmire that we're in financially. And so it looked like an optimistic and amazing show. So
are you guys going to the Canadian Bitcoin conference next week?
is that no, it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
It's like a
a month away.
October, yeah.
It's like mid-October, yeah. But
Oh,
we're definitely going. We're definitely
good.
going.
I got some
We're-
time.
I'll be talking about the future of Canada at that show, so I can't
Nice.
wait. Yeah, and we'll be doing our Bitcoin meetup here in Montreal in 2 weeks, where we're going to be talking about Quebec. And
We should do a live show.
We definitely should. That's a great idea.
We'll all
Very
be
good
there.
idea. I love it. I love it. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time for today. I did make a promise for a hard stop at 2:00. We lost our whole train of stuff. I had other stuff I want to talk to, but we'll get to it next time. I don't think I missed.
Well,
too
I
much.
think this was a good episode. It was good to get an update on this political stuff. It's pretty important here. Relevant
is.
stuff about what. How do we have a call to action if anybody wants to help us out
See
and
what
volunteer or get active? Like, how do we? What's our website? Do we have a website?
No, let me look. Let me look.
BitcoinCoalition.ca, maybe.
You can tell we're very.
Yeah, we do. We do. We have a
organized.
website. We have a total website. Look at this.
BitcoinCoalition.ca.
We have a total website. I'm going to.
And we have a couple of
There we go.
committees, an
We got us
education
on
committee.
roster.
You can
There
click
you go.
get involved.
Yeah.
And
There you
then
go,
if you're
everyone.
interested in being a part of this in some way, we're gonna start needing your help because these politicians are interested in talking to us, and we gotta outwork the crypto guys. So let's
The
build a- let's
interest
build a
rate in
roster.
Bitcoin is going up, no matter what Mark
Yeah.
Carney or Tiff Macklem says.
And that was the other thing too. The main thing was like all these the crypto guys are trying to convince the politicians about why they should care about stable coins and blockchains. And I just come from the position of you should care about Bitcoin because it doesn't care about Bitcoin. I mean Canada
Mhm.
and your politics, and it just doesn't care about it. We don't matter to Bitcoin,
Mhm.
and it's inevitable, and that's why you should care about it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, we need you to do this. It's you should, for your own interests, plug in and grab a seat on the rocket ship.
Great advice. All right, team. I appreciate your time. I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming, everyone. And everyone out there in the audience, thanks for coming. Huge audience today. We love to see it. We got about 400 and something live, and that's just on Rumble. So thanks, everyone, for coming. We'll see you all next week on Monday. Let me see what's up next here on Roxham. I think we're headed to Blockheads next. Indeed. Blockheads is up next, everyone. Thanks a ton. I shall see you next week. Bye.